It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's our
It's our
favorite day.
favorite day.
It's our
Hey,
favorite day. It's
hey,
our favorite day. It's
hey.
our favorite day. It's
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's our favorite day. And we're at the Connected Corner, guys. Happy Tuesday. I am your girl, Tori Rose, the Connector, and I'm just so thankful to be here with you guys. And who do I have the pleasure of co-hosting with?
Kiana B.
Hey girl.
Hey.
How you be? You be amazing?
I'll be good. I hope to be dry today.
Yesterday, everybody
It's
was
been a
pulling out
lot of
their
rain.
raincoats,
Yeah, it's been a lot
kayaks.
of rain.
Yeah.
So
My son
hopefully it's
said,
washing all the impurities out. I was sending people. I said, all this rain we've been getting. I said, hopefully it's washing all the impurities out of the earth.
I believe that. Joshua literally said, I understand why they make makeup waterproof. I was like, oh, okay. So, the almost 13-year-old. Oh, it's amazing. Guys, listen, pray for me as we count down to 13. We are less than 30 days. So T minus 30 days on me having a teenager. And wow, like it has gone so quickly. And speaking of that, we're going to jump right into our series. We have Black sons, young men who have matured and matriculated at different areas of their education, of their lives. But even that, my almost 13-year-old, and then you have a 26-year-old. How old is your oldest? 25?
It's like, no.
I should know this, but he's so
No,
cool.
you're right.
I stopped counting
26.
after 24.
The boys are 26 and 20. Yes.
26 and 20. And then my 12-year-old, and all three of them are entrepreneurs. Yes. And so even in that, I think it's just amazing in the alignment of when we're talking about higher education and we're talking about what disparities really face our boys, our young men, especially in this America, So we're going to jump in this series. We want to just thank our previous guest. We are in week 4 of the series. Yeah. And each week is just like dynamic and really pulling back and looking at, what are the systematic things in place that allow for you and I, right, to have multiple degrees and be on our way, to higher education. And it's expected of a Black woman. It's almost easier for a Black woman at times. Yeah. But our counterparts, our men, let me put it that way, Black men have challenges. And we just want to continue to talk about it. So, guys, if you're watching on Facebook, let us know that you're watching. If you're on YouTube, let us know where you're watching from. If you have not subscribed, make sure you go to youtube.com, type in The Connected Corner, push the button, ring the bell so you can be notified when we go live. These are news and resources
you can actually use.
And you can't use them if you miss them. So, yes. Without further delay, we also want to give a shout out to our media partner. Do you want to go ahead and do that, Key?
Yes, we want to shout out the dynamic Diamond K over at Radio on Fire. And now recently he's launched also, they have Radio on Fire TV. And so we're just super excited to have somebody who's been in the game and been in the media and music industry for so long to support our efforts here at the Connected Corner. And so you can also find past episodes and future episodes over at Radio on Fire platform as well.
Yes. And it's so funny because growing up, we all knew Diamond K and we have known him for years. And then you hear him on the radio and the club music and things like that. But I remember having an epiphany when I realized he was an educated Black man. Do you remember coming into this awareness that we see this one side of him, but there's this political guru? Do you remember where you were when it hit you?
Actually, I believe for me, it wasn't just in it because when we were in the studio, and, we joke, we have a good time. And I think for me, it was watching the news part. So, we have Radio on Fire. I know people are used to him, this music person, but he really does keep abreast on the current events and what's happening in the news. And so when you hear him talk about, particular things, and even joining in on some of our conversations and stuff that we've had for topics. I think that was the biggest part for me. It was like, wow, because when you hear him talk, you just don't realize that. And it just shows the layers, to us as a people, to Black men. Like, definitely don't judge the book by its cover. And then you really just don't know until you really talk to a person. And I think we could do better within ourselves, within our own communities, to really get to know people, because being educated and having a dope brain is not something you can necessarily see. You got to actually tap into, what that person has in their brain to know just how intelligent and educated they are.
I love it. And we have a responsibility to not further the propaganda or the stigmas about one another. So as we've been pulling back and really researching and looking in this topic, just to be honest, it's been hard to find certain levels of information. Certain data points are not there, and it makes you say, And so I want to read you guys something, and we're going to introduce our guest, and we're going to jump right into the meat of today's podcast. This says, data on Black men and Black male professionals in higher education outside of those faculty ranks are harder to obtain. Now, why would that be something that's even posted? It's hard to obtain. It's deliberately hard to obtain. But anyway, there was some research done by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it's outdated now. It's 2015, 2016. But it says just 13% of education administrators are Black or African American. That is men and women combined. Guys, I've been pulling back the layers. Kiana's been pulling back the layers. We're trying to find raw data, and it's not always there. And so even in that, we have to understand that the Black male professional in higher education is often overlooked on purpose. He is the invisible man. And why is that? And so I went to a HBCU. Kiana went to a HBCU. We're Black women who have been able to walk into certain worlds where we may be the only one at the table. And we question, why am I the only Black representation at the table? But then where are my brothers? And so let's get into today's topic. We have an amazing guest. Kiana, would you like to do the honors of?
Yes, I am super excited. So I, was reading up on this brother, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a good show. This is going to be an excellent show. If right now, somebody that needs to be watching, you might want to get them, because we have Dr. Ramon Goings, who this is what he does, you guys. This is his research. This is what he's done. I mean, over 50 scholarly publications, including 4 books on this topic of Black males, PK through PhD, diversity, the teaching, school, leadership, workforce. This is what he does. And so we are excited and honored to have him here. Make sure, you got your pens, your pads, and your information, because we are bringing forth the educated Dr. Ramon Goings. Welcome to the Connected Corner.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, we are super excited to have you. Derek Coley referred us to you. He said, "Hey, you guys got to talk to this brother. This is the work that he's doing, and just looking at your portfolio, like all the things that you have done. This is a topic dear to us. So passionate about education, and I love the fact that this is what you're diving into, helping brothers, helping Black males really." From that beginning, I like that PK to the PhD.
Yeah, for sure.
As opposed to the schoolhouse to the jailhouse. We're talking PK to PhD. And so, tell our guests, a little bit about who you are, a little more about who you are. And in that, tell us about your K through 12 education. I'm sure this is passionate for you. Did you have Black teachers, in that K through 12?
Yeah, so first I want to say thank you all for the invitation. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Again, my name is Dr. Ramon Goings. I'm currently an assistant professor in the Language, Literacy, and Culture doctoral program at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And I'm also founder of the Done Dissertation, which is a dissertation consulting firm that supports doctoral students getting through the dissertation process in 1 year or less. So that's what I do. And then, aside from the work, right, I'm also a husband to my wife, Renee. We've been married just over 10 years now. And I have a 3-year-old named Leah who keeps us busy, right? So we got all these things going on. And I like to say that because oftentimes Black men are painted as like not being involved in the family life, all these things, right? And so I want to give you the full picture that we are successful in professional, business, as well as home, right? So with that, for your question about K through 12 education, did I have a Black teacher? I want to give a shout out to the one Black teacher I had, my 7th grade civics teacher, Mr. Haney from St. Luke's School. He is still there. He's not a teacher anymore. He's an administrator, but shout out to Mr. Haney, because he was the only Black male teacher I had through my K through 12 experience. So again, this years later, I still can remember him and the lessons I learned from him, even though I was in 7th grade, right? And so my experience as a K through 12 as a student was, I'm originally from Stamford, Connecticut, and I was in schools. My mom now has been clean and sober for 32 years now, right? And so, but when we were kids, we're growing up, navigating, she's navigating life. I'm going to school, and I actually was identified as gifted in the 5th grade, but the school never did anything with me. I literally didn't go to any gifted classes. I just literally went to this new school, and I used to take all these tests, and like my classmates would be like, "Dang, Ramon, you still taking tests?" Like they would just be test after test. And I was at a 9th grade level in the 5th grade in terms of mathematics, right? That was what I was rated as, but I never got participating in gifted and talented programming. Honestly, when I left 5th grade and went to 6th grade, I was put into like the regular general class when I probably should have been in an accelerated class. And like a lot of young men who are very gifted and talented, when you're not in the right environment, that can really impact you. So I did well in school up to about the 6th grade. And then in 6th grade, I was in a bit large middle school. I remember one of my classes, we didn't have enough seats for the students. It was like 34 kids, 32 seats. So if you got the class late, you had to sit on top of the science table and take notes. It's wild when you think about it. You just see the kind of the inequities in education, right? And so I just remember just not doing well in school. I was getting C's, D's. And my mom was like, well, we got to figure out and do something different. And so it just so happened we had a connection to someone at a private school in my area. And my mom was like, boy, you're going to go here. And you have to take an entrance exam when you go to these prep schools. And I passed, did well. And then so I went, and that changed my whole academic trajectory. I probably wouldn't be standing here talking with you all today if it hadn't been for that experience, going into that different environment. That way, everybody was trying to do well in school. Once I saw that, I didn't need to fit in or, do what everybody else was doing. I could just excel and be great. But it took a different environment for me to do that. Those are like the big pieces about my K-12 experience that resonate with me.
And that's huge. I mean, just powerful in itself. When we often hear these, I always say catchphrases. So we hear representation matters and, certain things. And we hear people talk about, having a more conducive environment. But what does that really mean? It means putting our children in places where they can thrive, where they are able to be themselves and they're able to walk out their K-12 journey and beyond, like you said, and be able to map to be more successful. I mean, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Research shows that there are only 2% of Black male teachers across our country. So of all the teachers, about 2% are Black males. Why do you think we have, and I hate to use the word shortage, but why do we have a lack of Black male teachers, in your opinion?
Yeah, so this question, right, is multifaceted, right? So you got to think it's layers too. I think oftentimes people just point to, oh, there are not enough Black men going into the teacher education programs at college. But when you start looking at college, you're actually too late. Like if we rewind time and we go back to someone's K through 12 experience, I always ask this question, and you all can kind of give me a response. What would it be like for you if you went to school from ages 5 to 18 and were disregarded, disrespected every day of your classroom experience? Would you want to go into the profession that did that to you as a student?
Well, me actually, yes, because I'm petty. Okay. So the reason, in all honesty, for most of the things that I've accomplished in my life is because I've had an axe to grind. But I represent maybe 1% of the population. Most people would be discouraged, right? Key, is that what you were going to say?
I was going to say for me, no, I wouldn't want to necessarily. And in particular for me, I had a desire to major in math and be a math teacher. I was one of those students. I didn't necessarily have a favorite subject, much like yourself. I'm glad I had that opportunity to be tested in what we had, the GATE program here in Baltimore City Public Schools. But it was through those programs and in math class and doing well. but it was always perceived like I was the one that needed the help. You know, if I was talking to, you know, my Asian classmate, it was like, Kiana, stop talking, Kiana. You know, so for me, it was like constantly listening, like, she was asking me a question. English is my first language. Like, I understood what was said. Oh, I'm sorry. But, you know, but that's how I felt. It was like just this constant frustration all the time that, you know, I wasn't the one doing well, or I was the one that needed the extra help. And so, you know, as I continued to go through, I would say probably high school, Mr. Evans was one math teacher that, you know, really made me enjoy it more. But eventually I just majored in accounting and business, but that was something that I wanted. But because of that experience and going through school, I just was like, I don't know if that's something I really want to do now, you know?
Yeah. And see, that's the thing that happens in the K through 12 space. So like, if you have these bad experiences, it jades you for the profession. Like if teacher treat me like that, I don't want to be a teacher and treat my students like that. So that's a piece, right? So that's the K through 12 experience. Oftentimes in the research I've done, I look at Black men in high school to see what are the perspectives about becoming a teacher. And honestly, for them, they often found that a lot of the teachers talked down on their profession. So like the messaging wasn't right. It's kind of like, I'm disgruntled as a teacher. I remember one study I did, the young man said like, oh, my teacher was complaining about not getting paid on time. Something happened with a paycheck. And he was like, well, I'm not going to no profession when my paycheck ain't on time. So like all those pieces of messaging really make an impact at the K through 12 space. But then let's say, for instance, you get through that, you're like, I still want to be a teacher. You know, as Tori mentioned, I might be a little petty. I'm going to figure out a way to like, you know, this is what I want to do. You get to college now, in order to become a teacher, you know, you have to enroll in the teacher education program and you have to take the praxis. So then that becomes a barrier for a lot of folks. The praxis is reflective of the SAT, if you will. So that becomes another barrier. A lot more schools are doing better in terms of training all students in order to pass it, but it's still a barrier. So like, even if you are a great teacher, if you can't pass this test, you won't get your license. And then for many districts, you need a license to teach. So we got that piece, right? Say someone's able to finish that part. They get through the testing, they get through college. Now they go out in the workforce trying to find a job. Oftentimes, and I do work on HR because of this, is that HR will put Black men in particular in the most hardest needed school in that district because they are Black men. And they feel like, oh, well, if you're a Black man, you have the skill set to save all Black boys. That's the thought process that's happening. And so when you have a condition like that, when you're in the hardest needed school, probably with the least amount of support, it creates an environment where it's not conducive to you be successful. So you see a lot of Black men get burnt out and then decide to leave in preservation for their health, not just because they don't want to be a teacher. They need to preserve them as an individual. So it's like all those pieces combined is why I think that we see the lack of Black male educators right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We've seen it. Tori and I both had an opportunity to teach. So I did a career change and I actually ended up teaching math at one point. And so that was just exactly what we saw happen, was that you were given, even when I finally had an opportunity to go into education and teach, the classes that I had, it took a while for me to get to teach the GT and honors classes.
Right.
You know, geometry and algebra were the main subject. I taught some other math classes, but that was part of it. It was like the Black teachers, male, because it's not that many. So if it was no Black males, then the Black females got predominantly the lower level math courses. And then the non-Black teachers got the higher level math courses.
Yeah.
And so eventually I started to see that pattern. At first I was just excited, you know, to be teaching and finally doing something I wanted to do. But then as I continued year 3, year 4, I'm like, wait a minute, I've been here 4 years now. How does that person get to teach trig? And I don't. I've had 4 years of geometry, algebra. Can I get something else?
Right.
And so you started kind of to see that. So I definitely agree with that in that K through 12, you know, that situation there. When we're talking about school, so you talked about college. I know you're helping others get through, you know, matriculating through their college life. What college did you go to? Did you go to a HBCU? And if so, you know, why did you choose one?
So I got my doctorate at HBCU. So I went to Morgan State University. I got my doctorate in urban educational leadership. As an undergraduate, though, I went to a predominantly white institution. At the time, it was called Lynchburg College. Now it's the University of Lynchburg in Lynchburg, Virginia. I did my undergraduate there in music education. So actually, I went to school to become Quincy Jones. If y'all know who Quincy is, he created all Michael Jackson's music. I said, I want to be that guy. And I found out he was a producer. And I said, all right, and they were like, oh, you need to learn how to be an arranger. Because I was gifted as a musician as well. Like I could play any instrument. As a kid, I just learned them, figured them out. And so I go to school and, as an undergrad, my mom was like, do music ed as the backup plan. I'm like, cool, I'll do that. And then I fell in love with kids, and that kind of shifted me to be a teacher and do all that and go that route. But yeah, I did undergraduate at a predominantly white institution, was a unique experience. And then going to a HBCU for graduate school, I wish I would have done it probably the opposite way, knowing what I know now.
Well, I will say I know one other person that went to Lynchburg.
Oh, really? If they're Black, I might know them, depending on when they graduated.
Probably Samuel Peel. I met him teaching. We taught at Woodlawn together. When you said, I was like, oh, I actually know one person that went there.
You like skin with braids? I'm trying to think.
Peel, Samuel Peel. Last name Peel.
I think I gotta look at my list. Like I said, there are not a lot of us there.
Right.
And sure. God bless you, because I stay away from anything that's Lynchburg, Lynchville, Killville. The Black Panther in me is just like, what? No, we taking another direction. So I bless you for that. It's interesting because literally you're segueing right into what my next thought is about. So my undergraduate degree is from a HBCU. I'm now finishing my master's at a PWI. And I had an opportunity. Kiana dragged me to Miami for her birthday. And so I had an opportunity on the flight to speak to a young lady who just graduated from college in Los Angeles. And she was really just resentful and regretful that she didn't go to an HBCU. She was like, I just feel like I missed something. You did. And there's a very different dynamic as an undergraduate student. And oftentimes someone who hasn't lived beyond your community or your family subset to go in this place and be empowered. Right. And to walk away with this level of freedom of kind of knowing who you are and walking in that. So when you were at Morgan, did you understand the value or historical importance of the college? And I know you were a little older. Do you how did that affect you, and why do you feel like you should have done it differently?
No, I definitely did understand it, because as an undergraduate, I was actually a top ranked basketball player. So I was fielding options too in terms of school. So that's why
I'm sorry, flag on the flag. Excuse me.
You're like,
what have you not
done?
The
basketball behind me, yeah.
Kiana and our response were like, wait a minute. You said music. You said Quincy Jones, Michael Jordan. Is that his name? Michael Jordan. David Jones. All these people. Okay, we apologize. We're gonna let you answer.
Right. No worries. I was a field in HBCU, so I had some folks on my list that I was considering. But Lynchburg was the one place that let me major in music and let me play on the basketball team. A lot of schools, because of how many credit hours music requires and the time that you need for basketball, because the season's so long from October to March, if you're any good, your team's good, it takes so long and they require so much of your time that they often make you major in business or sports management or, all that other stuff. So that was a big part in my decision. But I always knew the value of HBCUs. My mom attended Virginia State University. She didn't finish there, but she always said oh, I love my HBCU experience. So I had been hearing that as a kid. So that was something I knew of. And then, going to Morgan was perfect, because I got to get my own experience kind of at the center of my education. Even though I was in educational leadership, which is a predominantly white discipline, but we were looking at it from a Black perspective, which really helped me kind of just to solidify the work I wanted to do. I had top scholars who were at Morgan, but went to all the top PWI schools. So they were brilliant in all their ways. So that was really helpful to be in that environment.
Wow. That's a great perspective in looking at it, that way. I went to HBCU for undergrad, and then, of course, predominantly white for my master's. But I think that is important. It's funny because I was having a conversation this weekend with a friend who's looking to continue to pursue her doctoral program. And another associate was trying to convince her to go to Hbcus, right? And how Hbcus was, so great and this and that. And so she was like, yeah, I don't think that's really, the way that I want to go. I said, well, they're also not one of the top education schools. I know the name in itself, but and they want to be an Ivy League, but not necessarily so. And so just kind of really looking at that and understanding it's important to know like what you need and what your experience needs to be.
Yeah.
And having now like one child finish school and two in it, really know like, I think this would be a great fit for you. Like my daughter is thriving, at a HBCU, where my oldest son, not so much. He was kind of like over it by the time he finished high school and was like, yeah, I need something different. I want to do something different and I want to be somewhere different. And so some of it is really, it's just not so black and white all the time. It's also based on like what you need. And so being, a Black male student, especially somewhere at a predominantly white institution, we know that education in itself is racialized. So did you find it easy? Like, how did you maneuver through that environment as a Black male student?
Yeah, so it was interesting because I had a little spotlight on me because being on the basketball team, small, and my school was small, and then we were on the team. So some ways it helped, some ways it didn't. So like sometimes I have professors that would come to the game and then maybe like, yo, great game on Saturday, but then like kind of like not acknowledge me in class, kind of like thing. So it's like you can see me for the athlete, but you can't see me for like the academic part of it. So I thought that was interesting. Even though I was on the dean's list every semester, like I was killing school. That was never an issue. So I saw that part. That was a piece of it. Luckily, in my music program, I just had some really great professors, Dr. Hatcher and Dr. Ramsey. They were just like, I see something in you. Like, you need to do this, do that. And they would put me in position to like have certain opportunities. Like even at the end when I was getting ready to graduate, I was ready to get out of there. And they were like, well, why don't you do this honors thesis real quick? And like, so we can make sure that you get this on your diploma so that when you finish, you graduate with honors in addition to the degree. And all those things they taught me really helped mold me into who I am. So I had some great people in certain spaces, but also it definitely was racialized, particularly being a Black man on the basketball team and being a music major. So they didn't know what to do with me. So like I would leave practice. I would run with my trumpet to go to rehearsal, the orchestra rehearsal. And like, they'd be watching, oh, there go Ramon running across campus. Or like, so I was in a unique position. But a lot of people made a lot of concessions for me. Like even my junior year, I took 25 credit hours because I wanted to finish in 3.5 years so I could do my student teaching the last semester. And I had the provost let me do it. And so signed off on it and really knew what I was doing and let me get out. So, I'm thankful for a lot of people that stepped in certain ways.
Listen, favor is not
25. Right. Did you feel this when he said, and I'm not even in school currently, but you said 25. And I was like,
it was 11 classes.
Yeah, I took a deep breath. I took 18 credits once. I was like, did he say 25?
25. I had to get out of there. 18. I was trying to get Dean's List too. I missed it. I was hot too. I had like a 3.48. I was like, I'm gonna get this 3.5. I'm a little petty too, Tori. So I'm gonna try to prove them wrong a little bit. So I said, I'm gonna get Dean's List too, just to make it,
Every time. Listen, guys, I'm almost speechless. Here at the Connected Corner, we strive to give our audience news and resources the average person can use. And so if you are a man, you know a man. If you are a son, if you have a son, these are the types of series that you want to get connected to. And you really just want to take some notes, pull out a pen, pull out a piece of paper, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Make sure you are trending and following us because there's something to be said here. I always tell my mentees, find someone that's doing the work that you strive to do. And then ask them a little bit about their journey. You don't have to ask them what did you do on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday? No, ask them about their journey, their overarching journey, so that you can maybe mirror the path. And as you're mirroring the path, you'll find your own path. And it just sounds like Dr. Goings found his own path. I will not be intimidated as I sit here in this program with these 9 master's credit. This is all I can handle. I'm a full-time employee, full-time mom, a full-time student, and full-time going gray. But I'm encouraged to hear what can be done from you sharing your experiences. So thank you for that. We definitely want to make sure that we are creating a civically engaged society, especially when the roads intersect between policymakers and educators and researchers. Like there's not enough representation for us. Again, my petty was like, oh, I'm gonna definitely be a history teacher, because when I was in school, my K through 12, most history teachers were old white men. And I can remember saying, whose history are you sharing with me? You know, if you're only reading and referring to McGraw-Hill, Texas, or whatever, you're not sharing my history with me. And so, what policy changes do you see are needed to support Black males in college and even beyond?
So I think part of the policy is like looking where Black men attend school. So a lot of them actually I think the data I have is from 2015. I have to look at the 2018 iPads data, but I know in 2015 it was like 41% of Black men first time college students attend community college. So it's like knowing that's where the population goes, and a lot of them, it's like providing more funding, more support, because they may need academic enrichment just depending on where they went to school, right? So supporting the community colleges, I think, is a big piece in this, and they're often not talked about. It's always like give the four-year universities or help, other types of schools, but like the community colleges really do a lot with a little. So it's like really supporting them, and the policies around their funding is important. Then in higher ed, it's just like holding universities accountable for their graduation rates for Black men. I always say if the universities believe it's important, then put their money where their mouth is. And would you be willing to like be financially impacted? I find that change happens when people's pockets are hurt. And so like if they are fines or things like that for you not graduating the men at the rate you said you are, then there should be some type of ramification for that. So I think policies around that would be very impactful. And then again, financial support, because a lot of folks, a lot of Black students just generally are going into student loan debt to get these degrees. And then depending on your profession, the job outlook is not as promising given the amount of debt that you have. So I think it's really a piece around student loan debt and what the cost of college is for a lot of students. I think that's important for Black men as well.
I would definitely say that. I think also too, one of the reasons I think there has been an increase in that community college, I'm sure even from 2015, especially teaching in the 2016, 2017 is when I came back out. So, I went in and came out, went back.
Gotcha.
Really encouraging students to go to the community college route. Some of them being fearful to say, well, they wasn't sure if they were ready for the 4-year school. And in a lot of cases, not getting scholarships or things of that nature, community college was less. And then I know, my teaching experience was in Baltimore County. They had a lot of parallel programs. A lot of parallel programs for students. And so that way they were able to even start that community college education, during that time. And so in looking at that, like, what do you believe the African-American community can do or should be instilling in their kids before college? So I know we're like, don't do that. So we're going community college and don't do this. But what are some other things that we can instill in them and still encourage, going to college?
I think we should encourage college and something that someone can do for themselves, like some type of entrepreneurial endeavor. Like, I think that's not often talked about. Like, I know for me growing up, it was just like, go to college, get your degrees, you'll make a lot of money. That's not always the case. So it's like figuring out a way. And honestly, let's be real. As long as you're in a job, there's an income ceiling. So at some point you will hit the ceiling and you can't go anymore. Whereas if you have something that you own and can control, then the ceiling is endless. And so I think that a lot of times we need to preach both sides of like getting our students prepared academically so they can do well in school, et cetera. That's important. But then being able to use that education to then build their own infrastructure, whatever that looks like for our students. I think that's a big piece. And there's a lot of people in the community doing that work. And I think a lot of times, even as a student, I would walk by the corner store and like not realizing that, look, that's a business right there. I'm just thinking about, I'm wanting my chips and stuff like that, but that's something's going on in there, and just really getting, students to really think about, like, look all around you. There is businesses and there's things happening, and you should just figure out what you might be passionate about and then have something that you can control too.
We love it. We love it. Kiana and I both are entrepreneurs. Not only do we have our combined business together where we do consultative work, we help other entrepreneurs with their business planning and mapping and things like that. But then we have our own individual businesses, and then our children are entrepreneurs. And so we're lucky to be of a family and of a mindset where it's like you can do everything. And you should venture into most things, and you will then be held accountable to do those things well. And so, will your business be $1 million earning company after the first 12 months? Well, Instagram wants you to think so. I just want you to build the skill that you can monetize. And if I can help you build a skill that you can monetize, you make $10, and I can show you how to make that $10 10 times, right? And so even with my own son, and I know I've witnessed many of these conversations with Kiana and her children, it's the stick-to-itness that oftentimes is lacking, especially, you know, when our children don't always have the role models. They don't have the lineage of my granddaddy's daddy started this company and started this business. You know, I have friends who are Jewish, and I always laugh because Kiana and I were in a predominantly Jewish area in Baltimore, and one of my Jewish friends was standing outside of the coffee shop, and he had plastic trash bags around his feet and holes in his clothes and holes in his pants. And I walked up to talk to him, and Kiana was like, what is she about to say to this homeless man? She's thinking I'm being cheeky or funny with this person. And I'm like, no, that's my friend. She's like, there's no way he's your friend. Like, stop playing. I'm like, no, seriously, he's my friend and he's a millionaire. And so, you know, I got to introduce them and things like that. But again, trash bags over his shoes, right? And his story is dynamic because he comes from 6 generations of entrepreneurs, of business owners. So it was almost a no-brainer for him to be successful in his business world. But he still worked full-time for the federal government, got that good W-2 income and those benefits. So he figured out a way to do both. And I think that we struggle a lot of times because we're the first generation, first ones out the gate, first ones that are trying to make a path and sometimes failing forward. So you mentioned your mom earlier and you shared some of her story, and we are just happy to hear that she has 30 plus years of sobriety. God knows that's a blessing. But are you a first generation college student? Or are you the first in your family to go? Tell us a little bit about, I guess, even your view from that perspective, if it relates to you.
I get, because I'm trying to think about, because my mom did go to school through her junior year, and then she had me. So she always says I'm a result of her college education, right? And so, so I knew about college. That was something that was pushed, like, boy, you're gonna go to college type of thing. And then, like, when they saw I was a pretty good athlete, like, oh, this, and then I started to see, oh, basketball's my ticket out of here. At least get me to college. I'm not gonna go to NBA or anything like that, but it'll get me to college, and I could work with it from there. So yeah, I think that was a big piece of kind of like my navigating school. In terms of the men in my family, I'm the first one with a college degree in my immediate family. Definitely first one with a doctorate in the family. So that's a whole new experience too, because then folks are, you know, oh, he's the doctor. Like, and I was young. I got my doctorate at 29. So then, like, you know, folks are looking like, oh, he's young, he's doing this thing. And so I like being an example for others, but I know some people get intimidated by that. And it's like, look, that was just my journey. That's not for everybody. Let's help you get to where you need to go, the best route that is for you. But yeah, I think that I don't really identify as a first generation college student, even though I probably am by definition, but I just always had the people in my ear, like, boy, go to college. My aunt went to college, go to college type of thing. So yeah, I had people pushing me.
That is interesting. I think Tori laughed while I laugh. Your mom and I have something in common because my 26-year-old is a result of my college education as well. And so, and looking at that, you know, I always say he started college in the womb, you know, because I continued to go. And then, you know, him being there, he was around 2 when I graduated. Okay. And cool. You know, he would ride past, you know, as we still kind of ride past COP, and he was like, that's my mommy's school, you know, or he would call, it used to be the Civic Center Arena at that time, because that's where the graduation was. He thought like that was my school because that's where the graduation was. But I think I applaud her for that and pushing you, you know, towards that, because I think some of it, when that happens, you're like, oh, my son is not going to be a statistic. You know, we're going to push through and you're going to finish. And so kudos to you and your mom for that.
Can I add one thing to that to think about in this dynamic, though? Is like sometimes what I ended up doing, I went to college, I was 18. When I was 20, my mom kept talking about going back to school. And I used to get mad. I was like, you forced me all my life to go to college. You need to go back. And so I made her go back. So she said, if you will teach me what you're learning while you're in school, I'll go back. And now she got her undergrad. She has her MSW in social work. She's a She works for the government as a social worker. So like I made her go back. And so she laughs now. I'm like, get your doctorate too. But she's like, no, I'm done. But I think sometimes as kids, we can push our parents too.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel like I hope that definitely resonates with, our viewers and listeners, because that is so important to know that you can go back. It's never too late. I did start my doctorate. I haven't finished, but I'm telling you, talking to you right now, I definitely was. That. Oh, yeah. And I was like, wait a minute, finish it. In a year and a half. Oh, let me find out. I know you focus on Black males, but I will be calling you because that was one of the areas for me, just trying to do it with a family. I was like, I don't have time. Like it takes a lot of time. So I will definitely be in touch for that support. Sure. But I think that is so important when you are talking about like you shared like a lot of your college experience, going to Lynchburg, going to Morgan. Yeah. What of those experiences really kind of shaped who you are today?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. There are a couple. One, I'll say at Morgan, two at Morgan. So I had a professor my first year in the doc program. He carved up my paper. It was terrible. And he was pushing me in a way that I didn't understand. And so, I had to start really improving. He was a Black man. He was like, his name was Dr. Kemet Shockley. And he was like, look, this ain't going to cut it. Like, to get where you're trying to go, you really need to sharpen your skill set. And then he gave me the tools to do it. And so I always thank him. Actually, whenever I give a presentation, I share screenshots of my first papers with him of carving it up, because it really forced me to be a better writer. So that was one. And then in my doctoral program, I was actually getting ready to leave the program, not because of anything with Morgan, but because I was commuting from Silver Spring to Baltimore 2-3 times a week for class. I was a teacher in Silver Spring, and then coming way up to Baltimore. And I couldn't manage. I was the varsity men's basketball coach at my school, so I had so much going on. I couldn't manage the commute anymore. And I told Dr. Warren Heyman, he's now retired. I said, Dr. Heyman, look, I'm going to have to leave this program. I can't figure out how to do this commute anymore. He's like, all right, let me make a couple calls. He makes a couple calls to one of his fraternity brothers. Next thing you know, I get an interview at a job, and I end up teaching at Montebello Elementary Junior Academy, like down the street from Morgan State. And so literally like that changed my whole life, because I was getting ready to, I don't think I could have managed it all. So those are two of the big, like, impactful experiences as in my doctoral program. And then undergraduate, again, having professors that allowed me to just flourish and do all of the things. Because I think a lot of times they want to put you in a box, particularly for Black men, like, oh, you're going to be an athlete, or you're going to be somebody who does good in school, or a musician. You can't be all three. And so I had people that would just allow me to be all three. And so that was very helpful. I could do whatever I wanted to do, and I had the support.
That's good. I mean, that's deep. And I think people sleep on Morgan. Morgan has some amazing professors, faculty, staff. I mean, I think about, God, what's his last name? Dr. Wayne Dawkins. Mm-hmm. Dr. Wayne Dawkins. When I was at Western, because I went to Western, he was just, I think, a junior professor at the time, but he was a Black journalist, Black man journalist who looks like he should be a sports announcer or something, or should be still playing ball, who said, we're nothing if we don't write and speak our truth.
True.
My junior year of Western, right? So I went on to work on the journaling committee. And again, I'm a historian. And so I think back to some of these people, and then flash forward, working at Morgan on the weekends, teaching young kids STEM and STEAM, whichever, you want to subscribe to. And you just think about all of the husbands, fathers, uncles that are in that school who are just, oozing with knowledge and information. And I'm sure it's like that at Coppin. And I'm sure, of course, it was like that at Bowie and, other schools. But I think we just sleep on these gems. So thank you for just bringing that to attention. Yeah. Shout out to Dr. Dawkins. Every time I'm in these conversations, I'm just remembering the people who even poured into my life and my world, over the time. I think we don't think enough about the people who have pushed us forward. So guys, make sure you are pushing subscribe. If you have not subscribed, make sure you go to the YouTube channel, type in the connected corner. You want to also push that button and ring that bell so you can be notified when we go live. We are here with Dr. Raymond. I want to be Ramon. Like
Ramon. It's Ramon.
It is Ramon. I apologize.
Ramon.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Ramon.
I know when he said it, I was like, oh, okay, I can remember that. My mother's name was Ramona.
Got
so
you.
One of my nephew's middle name is Ramon. So
yes,
keep that.
Josh's barber is Ramon. So it's a good name. Dr. Ramon Goings. Follow him at Dr. Ramon Goings on Instagram. That's his social media handle. And guys, listen, this has been an amazing interview. If you missed it, make sure you hit the replay, share it, tag a young man or someone that you know that has a son, brother, father, who may be able to get some good information from this series. So last question from me for a little bit. Actually, I don't want to fib. I might get two. Do you know someone named Darwell Rich? Is that name familiar? Dr. Darwell Rich?
Not familiar.
I may connect you guys. You are powerful. You will be definitely powerful together. So that was the first question because I got to mark my little list. Second question was, and we talked about this. See, I got a system here. Okay, cool. What should we do? Even if it's just one thing that you think we could do, how can we continue to advance the mission of HBCUs? That's going to be my next question.
I think just support them in whatever way you can, whether that's financially, giving donations to the institutions that you care about. That's one way. Another way is of your time or your talent, right? And so this is something that a colleague of mine, Dr. Wilbur Parker at Bowie State, he always says, like, either your time, talent, or treasure, so your money, right? And so I think those are three ways we can definitely do that. So just figure out what makes best sense for you, like getting involved with the students. If you're someone who's an entrepreneur or you have a business, why not connect with the department who's related to your industry? That way you can get interns into your business to help you, and then you get them work experience. So there's so many ways that we can be of support to our institutions that we care about. So I think those are just three ways we could do it.
Oh, I love that. Straight to the point. Okay, awesome. Kiana, we're gonna roll right into the key question. He's just so efficient. I love it. So we're gonna roll right into
right, like answer. Sometimes we used to be out of like, okay, and then but right on point. I wanted to we're the next segment. I'm gonna go into key questions, and we're gonna kind of like end with that. But I wanted to kind of go back a little bit and piggyback on when we were talking about like the passions and entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
I don't want people to miss that. I had to throw it went away and it just came back. But really looking at and understanding, like regardless of what industry that you're in, I've got a new mentee that attends Bowie State. And so she's in her senior year. She's a business accounting major. And one of my classmates from Coppin referred her to me to help her kind of, hone in like, hey, it's my senior year. I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah. And
some of it is very much so putting yourself in a box. And so we're talking about very similar to myself. She's a business accounting major. You like accounting, but you dance. You actually were going to be a dance major, but they didn't have it. And so now you have, and for some reason I said, well, hey, you creatively like things. What do you like to do? And so now you have this business degree. You're, going to have this business and accounting degree. You thought about having a dance studio, and what are some other passions? And so her assignment I gave her was write down the things you like, write down your interests and the things that you're passionate about. Because understanding, like having whatever that degree is, education, business, history, there are industries and there's areas all across that you can apply that knowledge, right? And so starting a business and having those things that you can own, I think is so important. And of course, as Tori said, we've taught our kids to get the education and start the business, get the education and do the things that you're passionate about as well. So I want to make sure people get that for those who are thinking about school, think about going back to school, like all of those things are super important, right? As we look at that, and we want to encourage everybody to do that. So we're going to do key questions. All right. So you have 2 minutes, and we're not cheating you. It's, you can't see that says 2 minutes right there. It's a 2-minute timer, and so you'll have 2 minutes to answer 3 questions. I promise you they aren't like brain busters or anything. I will start the timer after the first question, and I'll hold the timer up to kind of keep you accountable on your time. All right. Okay, it's fun. And audience, you can also answer the questions. Drop your answers down in the comments, and we'll drop the questions in the comments as well. And you can answer along with Ramon.
Oh, no, you're about to have it looking crazy. I have the trivia questions. Don't have it looking crazy. No. That's all good.
So the first one is, what is one piece of advice you would give your 20-year-old self? So one piece of advice you would give your 20-year-old self.
Money is, let's see. Yeah, I had a really strict mindset on money. I thought money wasn't abundant. And I've come to learn that it actually is abundant when you have a different mindset. I think mindset is the key to making money. So I would definitely have told myself that at 20.
I like that. I'm going to make sure I write that down. Okay. And the second one, what is something you do for self-care?
I like to get massages. So that's my thing. And then also I play music. So that's another piece for me. So those are the main two. Pre-COVID was playing golf too, but now I'm a little skeptical trying to go outside with folks. So,
Right. We understand that. And then the third one, you're doing excellent. Look, all this time left.
Yeah, I got this.
What is one thing you want people to take away from this episode?
That in life you have options. I think I want folks to really think about you can do school and something else. And it's not school or nothing. I think sometimes we say, oh, if our kids aren't doing well in school, they got nothing going for them. No, not necessarily. We're going to push them in a certain way to kind of do things for themselves. But there are options out here if you're willing to work and implement. And I think the word for today is execution. So if you're willing to execute, you can get through anything.
Look, I'm right. And I'm going to put that up. We're going to post that. Okay. Word for the day is execution. I actually like that. I'm going to steal that. We're going to start doing that word for the day.
I was thinking the same thing. We're about to start having the Connected Corner word of the day.
Look at that. Listen, you have 60 seconds left.
I see. You did a great job. So we give you a hand clap for that. We recognize, as Kiana shared, both of us have been educators. I don't think any teacher should teach more than 4 years without taking a break. And in order to be able to take a break in career change and go somewhere else, you have to have a secondary skill set.
For sure.
And so, in my opinion, as an educator, you're always an educator. That means you teach for 4. If that means mentor or help and do something else for the next 3 or 4, and then you come back in. I commend anyone who 20 plus years can teach. It doesn't even help you refill. So for any educators out there who are like, I'm leaving, I'm done. Don't leave and don't be done. Go and just change, get refreshed, get sharpened, build yourself, and then come back better than you were before. Compared to other races, we know Black men have some of the lowest college graduation rates. So we'll hear that and we'll see those stats, but we don't see the why. I think you did an amazing job today at really touching on the why. We know that Black male students often encounter negative stereotypes, racism from the application, right? People read the name and say, Daquanet, who is this? But we can say, Laskowski with no problems. Black males encounter microaggressions on campus that unless you are walking in the shoes, you wouldn't know. Campus mentorship, campus representation, sometimes even leadership opportunities are critical for the Black male student success and Black female student success, and they're not always available. But I've heard from you today, we've heard how you made your own opportunities, how you sought and fought to get those things, and you had relationships, and you weren't afraid to go and ask the provost to put his money where his signature was. And so I think there's just so much that we can walk away with from this interview today, and I hope that our viewers actually got something that they can use. One last thought from me, and then Key is going to give us our big finale.
And can I ask something to that stat you were talking about too, real quick?
Sure.
So real quick, so when folks say they talk about Black men not finishing school, so the data is 33% of first time college students, Black male college students do not finish in 6 years. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean they don't finish though. So sometimes that stat is somewhat misleading because it's for first time. And there are a lot of students, regardless of race, that don't finish their first time. And that means if they left at any point, then they're considered someone who doesn't finish on time. So that's just something I wanted you all to think about, just to put out there for folks who hear that stat too.
Thank you, because that's exactly what we're talking about. It's the, I'll give you an example. Earlier, you mentioned your time, your talents, and your treasure. Well, we know that comes from the Bible, right? That's a biblical principle of reaping and sowing, sowing and seeding. what happens is we hear all of these things, especially in Black culture, and we don't get the second part, right? So it says like, write the plan and make it plain. That's only the first part. There's a whole set of instructions and a whole set of words that we can find freedom in if we knew the second part. Right. And so I thank you for that, because my godmother took 6 extra years. I think she graduated in 12 years, and she went through those 12 years consistently. She didn't take a break. But according to this stat, she wouldn't have been considered because she prolonged beyond 6 years. And so I just think it's important for us. Knowledge is power, and we have to be knowledgeable and read the whole statement. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. I want to ask you a quick question about diversifying college campuses and retaining students of color. What do you think should be happening across this country to diversify college campuses so that we can retain students of color, males and females?
I think colleges have to recruit students like they do on the football and basketball team. They do a great job of getting Black students. We're overrepresented on all sports teams, right? So I think that same mentality, that approach, that we'll go find the best athlete in, I don't care what city, town, in what state, where you are, what country in this world, we'll find you at a college. I think we have to have that same mentality to recruit folks to our school and really give them the value proposition. Like, why does it matter? Why do we value you here? And then not only once we bring them, like, what are we doing to change our environment to make sure everybody feels supported? I think that's a big piece. So support, we might need to diversify our faculty. So it's going to require a number of things so students have access to people. And it's not just the one Black faculty member who's trying to support all the Black students. So I think it's a multi-pronged approach.
And on that note,
I oh my goodness, that is really good, and I definitely agree with that. I've seen it myself, even starting at the high school level, with recruiting and that sort of thing. But even when they're doing that, make sure you're also supporting those students academically. That you're recruiting so heavy, for sports. It was important to me with my oldest son. Getting recruited for football, going out to California. It's like, okay, well, you're going to start at a JUCO. And, of course, halfway through, you're getting all these offers. And I was like, no, you're going to stay the whole time and you're going to finish because I see, there's still some development and things that you need. And then you can get the full scholarship and they can recruit you once you finish this associate's degree, right? Now you have a full degree to go, because if you get hurt or something happens, your sophomore, once you get over and you have these last 2 or 3 years of eligibility to play and you get hurt, then what? So now you have a full degree and you finish something to transfer, because what happens is people have these credits and you're trying to move the credits and you're trying to, do this, and then you end up never actually having a degree. And so it was important for me that they finish at each level before they move forward. And so I think actually focusing on that as well will definitely help. I like what Tori said, taking that break. I don't know if I'm the poster child for that. When people say, it's like when people say, are you teaching this year? No, I'm not teaching. I'm back doing, finance, accounting, and the entrepreneur thing. But it's important, because I remember that first time leaving after 5 or 6 years, 5 years in, my students, I said to them, you have to also communicate, because it wasn't like, I'm not leaving you guys. If anything, I'm gonna miss you the most of all. Right. But it was the bureaucracy. It was like just all the stuff that I didn't expect coming from like corporate, coming into education. And it was a lot. So I said, well, if I'm gonna deal with all this, I'm gonna go ahead back and make, some more money and kind of take a break from it. But what I told them, exactly what Tori said, I said, I'm not leaving you. I said, but this is why it's important to get your education, to make yourself marketable and have more than one thing. Because guess what? At any point, I can go back and forth from the office to the classroom, from the office to the classroom, and giving yourself options. So we really want people to understand that. And so you guys, we hope you enjoyed this, just amazing episode of the Connected Corner. We are happy. We're just finishing up now our 4th part of Educated Black Men in America. This has been a phenomenal series. We thank everybody for their feedback. I mean, people
Yes.
are loving it. They're enjoying
Thank
it. They're
you.
so happy that we're doing something. It's timely. It's what we need. And it's what we want to bring you from the Connected Corner, right? This is definitely news and resources you can use. We want you to stay connected with Dr. Ramon Goings. So, Dr. Goings, can you tell our viewers and our listeners how to get connected with you?
Yeah, so if folks want to learn more about my work in terms of research side, they can visit www.ramongoings.com to learn more about the work that I do. And if you have any viewers that are a doctoral student and are suffering trying to get through the dissertation process, feel free to reach out to me. I have a free guide for you. So if you text hashtag free, FREE, to 301-701-2466, you can get access to a free guide to help you get through the dissertation process. And then feel free to reach out to me at the Done Dissertation. You can find us on the internet at www.thedonedissertation.com.
Awesome. And that was 301-701-2466. And we're texting the word
hashtag free.
Hashtag free. Awesome. And we'll go ahead and drop it in the ticker for anybody who didn't get it. Perfect. And yeah, oh God, listen, you're gonna be my mentor. I'm probably older than you, but it doesn't matter. You're smarter than me, so you're gonna be my mentor. And so anyway, I'm Tori Rose, guys. I will be coming back onto social media. Give me a moment. Anybody wants to email me anything that's of dire emergency, send me an email at connect2tori@gmail.com, and I'll see y'all probably in November back on Facebook and Instagram. And I'm at Tori Rose the Connector or Tori Rose. Kiana, how can we follow you?
You can follow me on all social media platforms at Kiana B. Jones, and you can follow us at the Connected Corner. Type in the Connected Corner. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and of course, YouTube. Make sure you go over to our YouTube channel and subscribe, and make sure you hit the bell to get notifications so that you can finish this series and all the great things that we have coming your way on the Connected Corner.
Awesome, guys. It's been real. Catch us next Tuesday, same time. Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Stay connected. Peace.